I'm Lisa Silmser, and I teach in the CAPS-GS program in the Masters of Arts in Teaching, the Special Ed Master's program, and the Education K-12 program. I find that manipulating the environment, especially for the first session, is so critical. I spend a lot of time thinking about setting not only the physical environment, making sure that it's comfortable, that the seating arrangement works for my students, that they can move and get to me and I'm using a lot of the space, but also the psychological environment, thinking about, is this a safe place to learn? Is everything else set aside so that my students have the most space in their minds to think about coursework? There's a lot that I will do, especially, again, in that first session. Some of it is certainly very manipulative on my part, but I think that actually maybe is just intentional. Maybe I should phrase it as intentional. I try to get to the class early so that I'm there and present in the room. And although I'm fiddling with things and getting set up, I'm really there to interact with my students. I'm really there to say hello to them as they come in the room. I don't leave that pregnant pause. I talk to them right away because I want them to immediately feel comfortable in the room. I work hard to make sure that they're interacting with each other. So things like having table tents for everybody, and not just that they're written on the front side for my sake, but they're written on the back side as well for those around them, is a strategy that's simple, but encourages students to use each other's names, to know each other, to recognize that we're a community of learners, and that sets a climate tone in the room. I use the walls of my classroom. That's something really that elementary school teachers know and use beautifully. When you walk into an elementary classroom, you know what that teacher believes in, that you know that those students in the room are represented. And at college, I think we forget that. By the time they're graduate students, we become a little sterile. Let's just deal with the content. And I've realized that my students appreciate when we use the classroom walls, when I put up posters, when I make sure that I'm using the whiteboard, the one on the front of the classroom, the one on the back of the classroom, anywhere that I can, creating that environment of this is our space, this is where we learn. I've had some interesting situations with arranging furniture. Sometimes the classrooms we inherit are not in the best situation for adult learners. They need a chair that's comfortable, it's adult-sized, and has enough space for all the gear they bring with them. And so I'm pretty quick to change the space, move desks, have my students help me. Let's move all of that out of the way to get better space here where we can learn. And I encourage them to move around the room throughout the course because students, especially adults, get very territorial. This is my desk, this is my space. And although I want them to have a comfort zone, I also want them to get up and move and be a part of all of our classroom. The semicircle is probably the easiest room arrangement for adults. They're comfortable with that. They can see everybody, and it doesn't put anyone in the center. It probably puts the teacher in the center, and that really is comforting for them. Personally, I like to move them from that semicircle eventually, but we start there. I'd like to move them to groups so that there isn't the stage on the stage. I don't want to be the expert up front. I certainly have things to share, but adult learners have a lot to share as well, and I want them to see that in each other. And a group arrangement, tables where they're facing each other, for certain activities anyway, is really helpful. One of the ways to manipulate the psychological environment of the classroom is to make sure that students are engaged with each other. Adult learners, I have found, come to the classroom thinking they're going to engage with me and don't really realize that they're going to be engaging with other students. And so there's a lot that I need to do to set that and make it work. It happens usually right away in class. If I wait until session 2, then they expect that, oh, Lisa's just going to lecture and I can come and sit back and and relax and take it in. Whereas if I start my session 1 with some engaging activities between students, usually it's introducing themselves to begin with, trying some different routines, some grouping strategies, mix, pair, share kinds of structures. I have a clock appointment strategy that I use a lot. Right in the first half hour to hour of a class, we'll set up an appointment so that everyone has, if I call out 2 o'clock, everyone knows who their 2 o'clock appointment is, and they'll go off and chat with 2 o'clock. What happens by having a structure is that I'm not the bad guy. The structure is. They can be upset that, oh gosh, we have to go get up and talk to somebody. But that usually fades away once they're actually engaged and sharing information. And so I use that structure. There's quite a few different things that you can set up that are comfortable for you. And then students know, oh, we're just going to do that clock appointment. That's not stressful. I can do that. And they get up and talk to someone new in class, and it really sets a good tone. I think certainly the first step is to really allow yourself to get in touch with what it means to be a student in your classroom. What would it feel like if I were sitting on the other side of the podium? Would I feel comfortable? Would I know the other names of the students in the classroom? Would I know the expectations? Would I be able to see the instructor? Would I be able to have enough space for my stuff? Would I know what's expected so that I'm not anxious about class? Once you can get over that and start being thoughtful about what your students are experiencing, the ideas really come to mind. You start to realize, you know what, they've been sitting a long time. Let's get up and move. Or this classroom is really dull. Let's take this part of the lesson out into the hallway for a moment. Let's take a walk to the library. These are things we do in K-12 and we forget about for adults, but adults need a lot of those same things. So I would certainly just start with being really thoughtful, especially about your first session. What can I do in my first session to set a tone that's physically and psychologically safe for my students? But as a friend now, I correct everyone. Everybody says I'm a friend.
My friends correct people much more than I do.
Yes.
I don't really care.
It's nice, isn't it? Thank you. Somebody take care of it.
It is a Kara.
Kara, and I said Kara, so I'm sorry.
I answered it.
Okay,
It
Kara.
was interesting. We had all these people they're posting. Faster with
It was a prerequisite to get in. All the keys are starting early. That's good. Come on in, find a spot. Put your name on both sides of this.
I have a son who thinks it's funny.
Nice ringtone, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Good. You can tell a lot about someone by the ringtone, don't you? What you're about to see then is a special ed course. It's the prerequisite course. So these are people who have had no experience yet with any of their graduate school program. They're new to Bethel. They're new to this whole endeavor. And usually they come in pretty anxious. And so I spend a good amount of time during the first session of their first experience helping them get to know each other so they recognize that, other people just like me from different backgrounds, different scenarios are feeling the exact same thing about, can I really do this? Is this going to work out? And we start with a lot of community building, just a lot of getting to know each other and getting to know me. But as a friend now, I correct everyone. Everybody says I'm a friend.
My friends correct people much more than I do.
Yes.
I don't really care.
It's nice, isn't it? Thank you. Somebody take care of it.
It is a Kara.
Kara, and I said Kara, so I'm sorry.
I answered it.
Okay, Kara.
It was interesting. We had all these people they're posting. Faster with
It was a prerequisite to get in. All the keys are starting early. That's good. Come on in, find a spot. Put your name on both sides of this.
I have a son who thinks it's funny.
Nice ringtone, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Good. You can tell a lot about someone by the ringtone, don't you? You are going to walk around the room and look at the posters with this new person that you've been chatting with. Okay? So just stand up. I know you need to move already.
Yeah.
Find a poster. Go ahead and move to the next one. Quick reactions. Thank you. Was just a little tease. We're going to use those more. But would you come over here, please? Start with the yellow packet and pick up the papers all the way to the end, and then you can have a seat again. But why don't you keep talking to each other while you do that, okay? You don't need to be silent now. Come on. By getting you comfortable with the people around you, I now have competition. Because now you want to chat, and that's good. I want you to be comfortable engaging with the people around you. I'm going to encourage you to do that throughout the course. But there will be times, too, where I need your attention. So now is one of those. I feel badly. I don't normally start class with all of those rules and get your parking permit, and here's how you buy books. And, you know, when you welcome someone into your house, you wouldn't start with, you know, here's the bill for this evening. But I guess that's how it worked out. So let me start by saying my name. It's Silmser on the last name, if you care. It's spelled kind of strangely. And yeah, that L is silent. It really throws people. But Lisa is not, the L is not silent. So please just call me Lisa. It's much easier. If you need to call me Mrs. Silmser, you're welcome to. But I'm working on my doctorate. I'm not Dr. Silmser yet. So actually, when you call me Dr. Silmser, it just makes me get the shakes. So avoid that if you can. Although I'll choose to think of it as a compliment, but I'm not there yet. So Lisa would be just fine. Okay. Some quick introductions. You are in the right class, I hope. Right? After all of that, you haven't wasted the first half hour. Right? Here's some things about me, because you know that's what instructors do, right? Is talk about themselves in the first part of class. I've been teaching for 17 years. I'm 39 years old. Those always come together. I wonder how old she is. So I have no problem saying I'm 39. I'm going to be 40 in June. And, you know, that's good. I'm okay with that. Know that we bring the rest of our world with us, right, to class. And so, although you won't all be together, you won't all be in the same cohort, I'd like you to be willing to share a little bit about who you are and where you come from. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. We're going to do it fairly quickly. The way that I like to do it is by having you share a personal highlight from the last week. So something that was positive for you. I've had people share that, you know, they've gotten engaged. Could be a serious thing that you want to share it with us. Something big happened. I had someone share once that they hit all the green lights coming to class. You know, they had kind of a lousy week, and that was the best they could come up with. You can be as vulnerable or not. It's totally up to you. I'm going to keep you to about a minute time, though. A minute or shorter. Okay? So, who wants to start us out? Personal highlight from the last week. Alexis, thank you.
Just to kind of follow up on what you were talking about, Lisa, I have children as well, small children.
Okay.
My youngest is 4, and her name is Nija. And I have one that's 6, and her name is Janaya. And I have
one of the benefits of being at Bethel University is that you have opted for a program where God is fully involved. And regardless of what your personal belief is, in the way that I'll be leading class, we will be praying. And sometimes there are things that come up in our highlights that are worthy of being prayed about. Tonight we're just going to go with a more general prayer for the evening. But certainly feel free, in weeks to come, or to email me. I'm a person who will be praying for you. And so if there's something that you need help with, or you're just praising God for the fact that He reunited people in your life, or whatever it is, feel free to connect with me on that. Also know that if you're in a different place faith-wise, and praying in class is not comfortable for you, if you would just close your eyes, no one would know the difference. And you can be thinking about your grocery list if you have to be. But I would certainly appreciate if you'd be respectful of the fact that that is what you signed up for, and God is a part of this place. So if you're comfortable, I'm going to pray, and I'd like you to join me. Father God, for these people and for their journey, Lord, we thank you for all of the things that you worked out, for encouraging families and coworkers. Okay, so what to expect? You are going to always get an agenda from me. Certainly the way I do things is not necessarily the way other instructors do, so we're just setting the tone now for the next 7 weeks together. Okay? I would assume that a lot of things are going to be true of other instructors, but just know that this is the Lisa Silmser way. Okay? So you'll get an agenda. The reason I do this, sometimes we'll move things around, but these are the hot buttons for tonight. I know we want to try and get to all of this. I don't know when I put this list up if there's going to be a topic that we really dive deep into and you have questions. If something doesn't get dealt with tonight, we'll move it to next week. So it's not as if we have to get through this list to get home. I've had people say, shut up, don't ask another question because we got 3 more things. I certainly don't want that to happen. Okay? Let me also tell you, though, if you are someone who needs to talk to learn, and you're asking a lot of questions, and I'm finding that it's not helpful to the whole group, I'll talk to you at another time and just say, you know what, can I pick on Liana? Liana, you got to keep your comments, give me the 3 best ones a night or whatever. Please don't be offended if I do that to you. It's not that I need to be rude. It's that I want to make sure that the learning environment for everybody is going well. Okay? So please, speak up, ask lots of questions. And if it's getting to be too much, I will let you know. Otherwise, assume you're fine. Is that fair? It also means those of you who are quiet might get called on. I don't want you to worry about that. If you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer. Or if you weren't listening, if you're planning your vacation when I was lecturing, then you just say, sorry, I wasn't paying attention, fill me in, and we'll catch you up. Okay? That's how that works. Objectives. You'll get objectives every single night. So you'll know what the intention is, what we're supposed to accomplish before we leave. Again, we can float those around a little bit if we have to, but there are a lot of things we need to cover. You're going to be treated as adults, you're going to be treated as learners, which means that there are going to be things that are difficult and things that are easy. You're all coming in from different experiences. There may be things that you could teach. I could sit down and you could come up here and take care of it. There may be other things that you've never heard of before. It's okay to be vulnerable and tell us what you need. Boy, this is completely new, or ask me. I already know all about this. Treat it as colleagues. I'm assuming that a lot of you have things you can teach me. I'm hoping that you do. So please speak up. If you have a different viewpoint than what I'm suggesting, your experience says something otherwise, please, ask me about it. Please suggest it to the class so we can work it out. Okay? Just because I say it's true doesn't mean it is. All right? I'm fallible. We're going to make good use of our time together. Sadly, what that means is that we're going to move quickly. We have all kinds of stuff to do. So if you're someone who needs longer times to process, I need you to go on faith with me a little bit. Okay? I'm an instructor who reviews a lot. We're going to come back to things. If it's really important, you're going to hear it over and over and over again. Okay? So trust me. If there's something you don't understand, certainly ask. But if I'm telling you that we're going to move on, we'll probably come back to it. Okay? It's going to be fast. Fasten your seatbelts. We're going to move. And then please ask really good questions. Just get in there. I want to know what you're thinking. And especially tonight when I don't know your body language yet, I don't know that look from Brad right there means I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay? So I'm going to need a little help in reading, what you're telling me. Questions about any of that? Yes?
So you probably put this on the blackboard. Are we supposed to read beforehand and then this is review, or is this completely new?
Good question. What I will do in class is not a rehash of your reading. That isn't how I function. Some instructors do. My choices for you in reading are background knowledge, and processing of information, so that when you come to class, we're learning more about that topic, or we're handling a little different, we're applying it. So the reading is intended to be prior to class. That's difficult for some of you tonight because you didn't even know to buy your books until Friday, and they're not here yet or whatever. I'm delaying the due dates for tonight till next week. So you'll have week 1 and week 2 due for week 2. Okay? Hopefully that's not too overwhelming. If you have a special circumstance, please let me know. We can work on that. But I won't be evaluating your work until next week. Okay? But yeah, Blackboard assignments or reading or papers, when it says they're due tonight, it means that you're to come with them ready. Other questions? All right. Was there a question? No? Okay. Let's deal with that later. Would you stand up? Would you come into the middle and would you mingle with each other? That means walk around and say bye. All right, can I interrupt you, please? I'm going to have 3 different questions for you that you're going to mingle and find someone who has a similar answer to you, all right? Color and height, match up, please.
My shoes.
Alexis and Denise, are you guys good? All right, this is your height partner. How many more partners do you think you're going to get? 2 more, right? Because I said there were 3 questions, so you're going to have 3 altogether. All right? Now I want you in your minds to think of your favorite ice cream flavor. Okay? Favorite ice cream flavor.
Just one?
Just, I know. If you could only have one kind of ice cream forevermore, which one would it be? Commit. Okay? All right, you're committed. I'd like you to go find someone who matches with you. See if there's a match. All right, can I interrupt you? Can I interrupt you? So now, those of you who have not yet found your partner,
Change your flavor.
change your flavor. All right.
Did you say butterpurple?
I did.
I did. That's mine.
Do you want to trade up? You want to trade?
Yeah. It's important. I was ready to sell.
All right. Introduce yourself to your ice cream partner, please.
I am Kirsten.
All right. So now in your minds, you have a height partner, you have an ice cream partner, and now we're just going to mingle, and I'm going to tell you to stop, and then I'll give you the next partner that this is. All right? So go ahead. Just mingle. Talk to each other. You never know. It's kind of like musical chairs. Where are you going to land? Partner up with someone near you and give them a big old high five and say, you're my high five partner. Okay, so let's just see how well you remember. Okay, ready? Okay, ice cream partners, go. Find them. All right, high five partners. It just means to be strong, doesn't it? All right, height partners. these partners. We're going to use them throughout the course. We're going to use them to decide on group projects. These are people you're going to be with in work groups. But for now, all you get to know is these are your partners. Okay? That's it. Lots of suspense, right?
Yeah.
All right. So thank you. You can have a seat. Outcomes usually what we want to accomplish. These are for the end of tonight. This is not by the end of the course. This is for tonight. So can I have someone read the first one? Can you see it?
To understand the basic components of four key theories, Piaget, Vygotsky, Erickson, and Kohlberg.
Nicely done. Denise deserves a clap for getting those names. All right, someone else. The next one's a little easier to read. Who's got that?
To understand basic brain biology.
Good. Any neurobiologists in the room? Excellent. Then I'm the expert. I like that. Certainly not an expert in brain biology, but I'll give you the best I've got. All right. Who can read the third one?
To develop classroom applications for brain research?
Yeah, because you're not coming to get your brain biology degree, right? Coming to be teachers, so the whole point of learning about the brain is to learn how to apply it to the classroom. Because no one cares unless we're doing something with it. Good. Someone's got the next one?
To gain awareness of Jensen model of memory pathways.
Okay. This is Elisa Silmser-Bent. Let me just give you a little background on this. I spent some time at the University of Chicago for a summer with Eric Jensen, who is an educational consultant who's made an awful lot of money selling brain-friendly information to educators. Okay? So there are certainly people out there who are non-Eric Jensen followers. I see that he's done a lot of good in my classroom. So I want to share this model with you because I think it's helpful, especially in special education. Okay? But certainly understand he's not one of the big names by any means. It's just a way that made sense for me, and I've had students explain that it's really worked for them as well. So we're going to look at memory through the eyes of Eric Jensen. Okay? You read an article, some of you who were able to get into Blackboard, right? Did you find it interesting? Your discussion has been awesome. So good. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Questions about any of these objectives? How many of you know anything about Piaget, Vygotsky, Erickson, Kohlberg? A little bit? Okay. Brain biology we also already said. Okay, good. If you are someone who takes notes, you're going to want to bring your notebook and something to write with you. Okay? We're about to do something a little bit strange. You're going to have to trust me, all right? Faith integration right here. Have faith in my direction, all right? We're going to go out into the hallway. I'm going to teach you in the hallway for a moment. Okay? I promise it won't be terribly long, but it will mean that people will be using the hallway. It's not the ideal scenario, but you'll understand soon why we're doing that. Okay? So if you take notes, bring it. Otherwise, I trust that I'm going to teach you really well. You might not need notes. Okay? We're just going right outside the door. Come with me. All right. Most of us, when we went to school, we had teachers who taught using textbooks. They stood up in front and they, shared information. We read, we watched videos sometimes, right? How many of you that's been your experience with your, education? Okay. Most teachers, most school, traditional school is taught in this category up here. This is semantic memory. Eric Jensen says that we have 4 different pathways, ways that we remember information, and school tends to focus really heavily on this semantic memory. Okay, it's the what information. Most everything is language-based, visual tends to be, or auditory. When I went to train with Eric Jensen, that was completely where my classroom was, and I thought I was being really successful. I was doing things in a lot of different ways to try and reach kids, a lot of multisensory stuff. I felt good about what I was doing. That's kind of why I went to see him, so that he could say how great I was. I was wrong. He suggested that we work on other ways of memory, because memory is learning, right? Once you have something in your memory, you can use it, you can go back and get it. So one of the things we do as educators is try to create memories for kids, okay? He suggested that there are these other ways to get memories to stick, and that if we would in education use them more, kids would learn more. Let's talk about this one, episodic memory. When you think of the word episode, episodic, what comes to mind? TV, right? Right? A Seinfeld episode, right? 30-minute segment, right? And when we have an episodic memory, it's usually that you remember all the things about it. You remember where you were, how you were dressed, what someone said, even what the aromas were in the room. I put a birthday cake here because a lot of us have those kinds of memories associated with family celebrations. Okay? The where were you when kinds of questions tend to be episodic memories of ours. 9/11 is certainly an episodic memory for a lot of us, right? I mean, the physical sensations of that day come back, don't they? Okay? Now, we want to create positive episodes for our students. We don't want 9/11 kinds of memories. Although understand that those fear emotions create strong memories as well. But if you think about, okay, how do I create an episode in my classroom? Okay? A few things that I would do. I would have students stand on their chairs while I taught this certain part of class. And then when we'd review, they'd, what? You don't remember that. Remember when we stood on our chairs? Oh, yeah, now I get it. The difference between semantic and episodic memories? Just quick, take 30 seconds.
Episodic is more memory.
Something that's out of the ordinary too, maybe.
If you decide that you're going to go back to your classroom and, wow, I'm really going to do it up. We're going to have parties and costumes and all kinds of huge things going on. What happens is nothing becomes novel then. It's one episodic issue right after the other, and your brains can't handle that. So you need to think about, how do I use this carefully? How do I use this for those things that especially kids are struggling with, you know, or the things that are really long-term critical information. You know, they've got to know this to succeed long-term. Those are things to create episodic memories of. Okay? You know, in a year and a half, and I'll ask you about memory pathways, and you'll go, is that hallway stuff? Say yes. Oh, okay, now I know this. Okay? It seems ridiculous, but something that's out of the ordinary will stick out, and especially that episodic memory, I think, is really powerful. Questions for me about those?
Did you say that this is the Jensen?
Yes, this comes from Eric Jensen, and there have been some, this is an older version, there have been some morphed situations with it, but this is my simplistic view. It still, I think, works. Okay. Reactions to it? What do you think? Think I'm full of it? Does it match up? If I say it works and it doesn't match up with your experience, you need to talk about that. Yeah.
I'm fascinated because I know that kids may not learn by using some of these pathways, but other they'll be able to learn like episodic or thinking outside the box, so to speak, and so I'm really fascinated.
Yeah. Yeah. Inevitably, you're going to be working with the students who have not had success. So the traditional standard methods aren't probably going to work just because you're giving them to them. You're going to have to come up with something that comes from a slightly different angle. This model helped me to come at some different angles that I hadn't thought of before. Yes, Sylvia. And then, now, let me give you one caveat. Can you think of students where some of these other ones might be difficult? Something other than semantic might be really tricky. Who's going to struggle with physical, out of routine, let's have a party? Yes.
I work with a girl with Asperger's,
yes.
And if you change her routine, the whole day she will not learn because
yes.
she cannot get over that you broke the rules and that you change the routine. So we like to do things that are, kind of fun and more out of the box, but we really have to, prelude them all week and warn them and write it into their schedule
right.
and really plan it out. So it's a lot harder to do some of those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Students who are on the autism spectrum now is a mile-long spectrum, let's be aware, okay? In fact, there's probably research coming where we're all on the spectrum. It's all of us, okay? And then the people who are in this chunk get the label, okay? But students who have autism, some of them will have a real difficulty with going outside of the box. Some of them will really want, as Kelly was saying, that specific routine and don't change it up. So there are people who will have difficulty with coming at it from another way. The suggestion I have then is you make procedural memories or episodic memories a planned event. You know, we're going to do this special thing on Thursday. You don't know what it is. It'll only last a half hour. It'll be a surprise. You know, this is the plan. And then it's more likely to be successful. Okay? But certainly I wouldn't, plan episodic memories randomly for my autistic kids. For my kids with autism, excuse me. I got to get that. Any other questions? Do you think this is important information for teachers? Yeah? I'm going to use this information on all of you. Okay? We're going to create episodic memories and procedural memories and do all kinds of stuff like this. You need to trust me. The reason that we're doing this is so that you'll remember things. Okay? It's going to be a long time until you're taking exams for your license, until the end of this course. You've got a lot of life in between the 7-day spans that we see you. Okay? So trust me on some of this. If I'm asking you to repeat things, if I'm asking you to do physical motions, I'm encouraging you. You certainly don't have to do them, but it will boost your memory. It will help you. I thought there was a lot that worked, a lot that went right that night. It's always interesting. You never know. It's based on the group of people and my mood that evening and my energy level, and the dynamics were right in the group. There was a lot of engagement, a lot of smiling. They were willing to share important things. They got up and moved when I said so. There were not groans, which there can be. Adults think, oh, God, do we really have to do this? And so there can be eye rolling sometimes. But usually once they do get up and are engaged with each other or asking questions or finding their partners, they're pretty happy about it. And I think it worked that night. We did go into the hallway for a portion of the class, and I certainly have had an experience where it's better outside of the classroom than that hallway. If you can find a spot to teach from that's not quite so full of interruptions. We had people coming through nonstop, and so I'd teach a little bit and then cue the group to come through. But when I talked with the class the following session, they all said that was memorable and didn't interfere with their learning. So, who am I to know? It's really all about them and what they get out of it. I have opted to not build community sometimes and just teach the content and teach it hard and heavy, and it really becomes all about me and what material I have to cover. And I have gotten feedback that it doesn't work. When I make the class about the learners, when we set the environment and I let them know, no, this is about you. You need to be comfortable, you need to be engaged, and I'm going to teach my heart out. But you have to be present and here in class. And doing those community building activities instantly remind them that they have to be present. They have to be engaged in class. And so I think we get more done. The feedback from students is that they learn a ton when we take the time to do those things. They're much more available to learning if we set the stage first. I might actually agree. Yeah, there's some silliness about it. There is some childlikeness about it. I think that's a good thing. It catches people a little bit off guard, allows us to laugh. Certainly there's been resistance from some students once in a while, but oftentimes they understand the outcome. I'm pretty transparent about why we're doing it. And I'll say up front, all right, this is going to be silly. Find your ice cream partner seems like a ridiculous thing to ask adults to do. But it's memorable. And especially because I'm teaching teachers, they're going to be doing that. They're going to be using that with their students. So it's important. One of the things that I need to do to promote discussion is allow for differing opinions. And I'm pretty good to model. Tell me more about that. Ask more probing questions. I try to make sure that I'm not looking for a right answer. My questions are such that they're open-ended, and then I'll say, Dan, what do you think about that? And Sylvia, do you agree? To the point that eventually they start doing that themselves. When they're familiar with each other, they're able to disagree, they're able to ask, and we get much deeper conversations. The other thing I do is get out of the way. By having them partner up or be in small groups, then they're not performing for my sake. It's frustrating when learners will only look to me, you know. All right, Mrs. Silmser, do you agree? Am I doing the right thing? And no, share with the group. And so having them in small groups gets me out of the equation. For me, faith is an incredibly personal thing. And so I don't readily share that unless I'm feeling comfortable with the group I'm with. And I believe that to be true of a lot of my students, that, you know, we're taught not to talk about politics or religion as adults, you know, stick to the weather. And in class, gosh, we need to get into difficult subjects. And so faith integration faith is a difficult subject for a lot of our learners. They're not used to talking about this. And so giving them a safety net, making sure that this is a comfortable place where we can disagree, we can have alternate views and accept that, even as Christians, you know, sometimes a novel topic for people. That community building is necessary for them to feel safe to talk about faith. As instructors, we all have these little voices in our heads, and I certainly have the voice that tells me, boy, you've got 50 other things to get to tonight. You know, really, are you going to take the time to hear about everybody's personal highlight from the week? There are times where I'm not as energetic, I'm not as engaged. I have things pulling on me, and so I'm more focused on myself than focused on my learners. And when that happens, I have to pray about it. I have to ask to be in the right place, to be given that extra ounce of energy, the extra care and compassion. And usually it comes, you know, if I just ask for it. But I think truly the biggest interference for creating a great classroom environment is my own willingness. Creating an environment in an online situation is a whole different set of skills. You know, I felt competent in my experiences that I could create an environment in a face-to-face situation. But in a Moodle classroom, you're not physically there, you're not reading nonverbal clues. It's difficult. One thing that I found is that students really need to know that you're there. And so even dropping a little note here or there, you know, it posts with the date, and they see, oh, Lisa's in class, she's present, is a good part of it. The other part of it is I tend to send my students messages privately outside of class, I mean through the system, but I'll talk with them personally, just as I would in a face-to-face class. Not everything is for everybody. Sometimes I'll need to ask, you know, more questions of somebody, or I'll offer a special resource that I won't offer to everyone because it doesn't apply to them. But making their learning personal, letting them know that I see them even through their computer, even through the distance, that I'm still available to them, and they're a real person outside of that screen. The other thing with online environments is the only thing they see, the only thing the learner sees is what you put on the screen. And so setting up your Moodle site is like arranging the furniture in your classroom. It's like being there at the beginning of the class to welcome them. Where you put your announcements and how long they are, and whether or not the syllabus has all of the details already, or if you leave these giant holes that say, oh, more information to come, you know, gives the impression that, well, I'll start class a little late today, I'm not quite ready for you. And that certainly doesn't create a learning environment that builds confidence in our learners.